This is the June 13th, 2022 meeting of the Public Access Financial Advisory Committee, which meets annually to review the PPM-TV's budget and approve a distribution from the trust. If we could, we have, well, just a brief, there's three members of the committee. There's the city manager's appointee, which is myself, Andrew Pergel, Deputy Finance Director, the city council representative, Vince Lombardi, and the cable commission appointee, Ash Chikori. With that, if I could have a motion to accept the prior year's meeting minutes from June 1, 2021.
And I wasn't here for that.
Well, Ash, do you want to make a motion to accept those?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, motion to accept the meeting minutes.
All right, second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, now on to the agenda, the history of the funding. We have in front of us, Ash, do you have that spreadsheet that was sent by chance?
Let me check.
I think it was sent.
I'm on a different computer. So bear with
Was
me
it sent
one
by you,
second.
Andrew?
Joanna. Joanna sent it to you.
The one I got from you guys was not this updated one.
Yeah, the print and didn't have the last column.
Yeah, so he may be lacking
Yeah, you might
a
be
section of it.
lacking the last column.
Do you know the date you sent it out?
It was last week.
Last week. I'm looking at the meeting minutes for last year.
I think-
Agenda.
That's all I got was the agenda and the,
I think she sent it after all that, then I sent out the spreadsheet and,
I see it now. Yep, I have it.
okay, so Ash, you probably
so
do not have, do you have a column, the last column says during FY '22 for FY '23? Do you have that column?
Bottom line is 194, 601.
194, 601. There was one second. I don't see that. No.
Okay, so it didn't print on your version. So in the trust right now, there's $194,601, okay? That comes from, if you look at the end of last fiscal year, the trust ended with $70,361, and then we start anew, and how it works, this funding, is the cable franchise fees are collected for collections throughout the year. We received $484,281 through the cable franchise fees. And by council vote many years ago, the first $360,000 is kept in the general fund, and anything over the $360,000, which this year is $124,241, is sent to the trustees to be put into the trust. All right, the Cable Television Public Access Charitable Trust. And at this point, we, the committee members, review the PPM-TV's presented budget, and we vote to distribute from the trust, and the city manager must approve it, an amount that PPM-TV then can operate in fiscal '23. So that is the history of the funding, and I will hand it over to Chad from the PPM-TV, and he will present his budget. which you probably do not have, Ash, right?
No, I don't. No.
I do have just a couple questions.
Okay.
Before, I'm the relatively new president, and I've been on the board for a while at PPM TV, but I've never been to one of these meetings before. So I just had some questions about how this works, and I think you've gone over that a little bit. And so I'm seeing that this year, the final amount that they paid, now, do we know that that's a final number?
Yes, that's
Because I know
final.
sometimes those have changed a little bit.
They pay quarterly, so that won't change, but it goes into the trust. The trust might go up and down a little bit because of investments. So this 194 might not be an exact to the penny number. They won't finalize the number until the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2022.
Okay, so what happens is you get the 484, you immediately took out the 360,
We keep it, correct?
and then you put into the cable trust
Correct.
what remains, and you do this every year. What are the fees involved with putting that in initially? Are there fees, or with
To the trust?
with putting it into the trust or taking it out of the trust?
No, we
No,
we give
okay.
it to the trustees, yeah. And
All right.
they have, millions of dollars in trust.
Yeah. And when I was a library trustee, I remember we had a lot of funds through the trustees of trust funds, and we used to get monthly reports on those. Is there any way that we can get reports on this, on the cable trust fund, at least at the end of this year, so that we know the end of the
Yes,
fiscal year?
we have to file reports, I forget the MS 9 and 9 and 10 with the state, so they will have, those final reports will have the final.
Yeah, is that something you can communicate to us? I mean, I've tried to look for it, and it's not easy to find.
All right.
That there even is this under the trustees of trust funds. So
Okay.
if we could just get a final year-end report, that would be helpful.
Will do.
And so the way I understand it is there's been, over the years, the idea has been that once you get down to this number, which you've got, that you put in, 124, 241, you put that in. Carried over from last year is what we're saying, that there was a negative balance carried over?
70,361.
It's carried over.
Is carried over. So what's that 6? Is that a
The difference, if I can help.
fund staying in the trust was, it's got in parentheses like it's a,
Well, it's
a minus.
it's the equation.
Oh, it's-
In last year,
Yeah.
there was $481,000 received, minus 360 that went to the city general fund, leaves a balance of 121,103. So to send 127,468 leaves that deficit of 6,365.
okay, because one of the things, and I think that's something that you discussed last year, is whether or not the fund had to have left in it, I think it's traditionally been 50% of our budget. And I think last year that was something that was discussed, which was why the decision was made to give us a little bit more. Is
Yeah,
that,
every year the committee can decide, what they're going to keep in the trust. As you can see in the beginning, in the beginning of the spreadsheet, back in 2010, we would distribute the whole thing that the trust received. We would send it to PPM TV. And then in about FY15, we started building a little bit of trust balance for your good, so we're not wiping out the amount of money going into the trust, because, I mean, if you look at the columns here, look at the FY17, 18, we were collecting over $500,000 in cable franchise fees. We're collecting, $50,000 less today, 10% less than we were, 7 years ago. And that's the trend of cables, the kids nowadays, they don't get cable, they stream. So, so the idea is to keep a little trust balance in case, we don't get over $360,000. That would give you a year to operate and, figure out what your situation is. So that's the whole idea, to keep a trust balance in there. Protect you guys for at least another year of operation.
Okay.
And that's if, like, the cable franchise fee just doesn't come?
If it didn't, yeah, if it went down, if it keeps on going down, you're receiving less money.
Yeah.
Like, how did we do? We got a little bit higher than last year.
So what is originally when you guys set up the 360 to take out, what was that? Like, can you explain that to me? Like, because
Why they picked 360?
Yeah, why is it 360?
We would have to go back to the minutes of that meeting when it happened. It's in the budget book, the date that it happened. The council just picked a number and said, we will keep in the general fund the first 360, and we will pass along anything after that to the trust.
And I think you're asking, what's the rationale for that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the rationale for that? I mean, is there a point where we could ask I mean, I know money's tight, so they're never going to give us, but just ask the council to explain the rationale for that?
The council probably wouldn't know, because none of them are around from when that happened 12 years ago.
Did that take effect in 2010, FY10?
It's in the budget book, the exact date of the vote.
Yeah, looks like it.
Maybe it would be helpful if we could provide you guys with a review of how it.
The minutes.
Yeah, because the one thing that is, we know that in other towns, basically, the stations are still getting all the money that comes in. Now, obviously, we don't need all the money that comes in, but, if that comes out afterwards and there's, as a result, not as much going into the trust fund as would be ideal, it really, considering the value that we're being asked to give back to the city of Portsmouth all the time, it would really be nice to have, that some consideration of a change there. Because the city's always coming to us and saying, can you do this? Can you cover this for us? Can you cover that? The school department, can you cover this? Can you cover that? And in some cases, it means that we need updated equipment in order to do that. In other cases, it means that we need personnel. We need to actually be able to pay people part-time to help us when, right now, it's one of those things where the volunteers are drying up too around the country. And
I think it's important to note that there's consideration of what you would be paying in lease payments. So you're not paying lease, but I know there's a recognition of capital costs.
we actually are paying the equivalent of what we would pay in taxes to the city for the lease. So we do have a
In terms
lease
of capital.
obligation.
Well, there's no rent payment, if you will. So
Right. We
I
do.
think there's some recognition that of that cost factor.
Yeah. I think one of the issues there, though, and that, we want to talk about later, and maybe that's something to consider about this $360,000 or exactly how it's allocated, I don't know, or if maybe there could be some consideration about some of the money set aside for capital improvements in the city going to the building at some point, because it really is in serious trouble in some ways.
Yep, and this is
that's what
timely
we wanted to
because-
talk about in another.
Right, we're in a one-year lease extension mode with
Right, to
you
talk
now,
this
so that
over.
would be something to work out for the next lease.
And we really do need to have a firm date for a meeting, because it keeps getting pushed off, and really sit down and have a firm date for
Sure,
that.
so we'll
that we
start
can-
with an accounting of the minutes. I'm not sure how this meeting keeps getting pushed off, and I don't know if it's my fault, but we'll figure it out.
Talking this meeting?
No, I'm talking about the meeting to talk about the capital, the need for the capital improvements and where we are on the lease, our lease obligation,
We just renewed for a one-year lease extension, so.
so that we could work out some of these details.
Yep.
And at some point, if there was it would be appropriate to plead before the city council that,
So let's take the step of
Do
first going to the
one-time.
minutes, and then we'll take it from there.
yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you for that, for clarifying some of those. things, and I think that helps me
Okay.
understand what we're dealing with
Okay.
and why.
Ready to move on the agenda? So now with the presentation of FY23 PPM TV budget.
Yes, so it's in front of everyone here except for Ash, which I'm sure we could email him this copy. So we're looking to get $135,000 from the trust. We're looking to get donations of $2,000 this year. Memberships are going up for us, which is great. We have about 35 members, which equates to about $3,000 per year for our membership. We are looking for a grant of $4,000 with the Preservation Alliance. Our event income, which hopefully this will, we'll start to be able to have events where people really come to them because of COVID, about $1,500. Sales of products, $500. Underwriter sales revenue, $1,000. Producer raised funds, $500. Rental income, $1,000. And interest income, $300, which puts the total income for us at $148,800.
And just to make a slight comment, the rental income has been going up significantly for our members who are the
Yep.
usually organizational members are doing the
Yeah.
rental, and so we've been able to increase that by being.
So we're a pretty good resource for the theaters in the area for rehearsal space. Almost every single theater in the Seacoast rents space for rehearsal from us, which we give them a discounted price for being a member to be able to rent the space for a certain amount of time to use the space however they wish to. Hopefully 10 people in there at one point, or 3 people. It could be all over the place. But they do use that, and they use it often when their shows are going on. They use it 3 times a week, possibly more. So we're looking at rental income for that to raise. Obviously, for this upcoming year, people are getting out,
Sure.
doing stuff. And then a lot of businesses in the community rent some of our lighting gear for a few days, possibly a week. Members can rent cameras outside of our station when they're using them inside the stations. Different membership perk. You come in and use a camera. But when they're renting it to go out in production, there's a cost for that. We charge a little bit.
Chad,
for
what
rent.
was that number last year for FY22, the rental income number?
I don't have it on hand right now, but these numbers are based off of what we did last year, but roughly. It could be a little under, it could be a little over. So I would say it's probably around 1,000. That's what I based this budget off of.
And I think it's a lot bigger than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
This year, we've been able to get it up to this level.
Yeah,
So-
in the past, we have done a lot more trades. Some theater company would put our logo up, and we would allow them to rehearse without a charge. It was kind of you help us, we help you kind of
Yeah,
thing. But we're kind of moving more in because we have to be able to raise some money for operating budget, for gear, for maintaining things, for staff. Lights, electricity is all going up in cost, gas, all that stuff's going up. So we need to make a push for us on a rental income. So that's what we're at now. I would love to see that number at 5,000 for next year, because projected if we raise a lot of money that way, we'd be able to jump that number up, which would be great.
I have a question on the utilities. Chad, did
Yeah.
we build in any increase?
That is pretty close to what the increase is. So I budgeted that based off of pretty much what we spent last fiscal year, for utilities. And utilities include water, electric, heat,
If you
phone.
get the windows fixed, the heat wouldn't be so much, right?
Yeah. Well, that is another whole nother issue, which.
Besides yourself, who else is on the payroll?
We have two other part-time 20-hour-a-week employees. One does a programming, membership, social media, spreading the word. Programming is if you're going to do it well, is a full-time job. We program 24 hours a day. So if you turn on PPM TV, there's a show. Whether it's by our community or PEG Media, public access from around the country, shows that we've done, learning and living with disabilities. They're national. There are public access channels all over the country who are taking that and putting it on their air. So we kind of swap. So
Material, yeah.
so doing all of that, programming it all in, is a 30 to 40 hour a week job. But because we have someone who's extremely proficient and amazing at what she does, she's able to do it with 20 hours a week. That's our membership programming manager. And we also have another employee as studio operations. That person's basically helping me with shoots, helping with members, helping present in the building, gear, rental studio stuff. Basically my assistant to help maintain and make.
And I will say from the board point of view, I mean, one of the reasons why we thought this was so important is because Chad needs to be spending more of his time raising money. So this makes it possible for him to be raising community awareness for us, and to it's my job to sort of tutor him in raising money, although I have a bit of that's my job as well. So, but that is something that we're working on. And
so the building improvements, that's what I'm sure you're all aware of the rollover that we have with the handicap ramp. I sent it over, and I think Jane would have sent it to you guys, but we have a rollover of $18,646.60. So the remaining that we are going to be paying in this year for this fiscal budget is $7,519. Next year, that will be up, and we will be paying the full 26 for the rental income, the way that we exchange that for renting the building. So that's that number. Our insurance is $4,723. That covers the entire building. That's why we have a membership, because it will cover anyone who's under our memberships. Equipment rental and purchase, that's gear. That's new gear. I don't know if anyone knows how expensive cameras and audio camera gear is. It's up there. It's up there, but that would give us the ability to purchase a couple DSLR cameras for members to be able to use. Office expenses is $500. It's pens and papers and printable stuff. It's $500. Studio supplies, that's cables, that's anything that we need in the studio, in-house. That's about $3,000. Legal and accounting expenses, that's basically paying for our bookkeeping. That's about $4,000. Facility expenses, that's anything that's not covered under the lease. That's like fixing a door handle or something like that.
a surprise.
A small surprise that doesn't come under the category of lease obligation. That's $1,300. Equipment repair and maintenance, this is kind of a buffer. Hopefully nothing goes wrong, but we have $1,000 there. Dues and subscriptions, this is a lot of our online subscriptions for ability for our members to use royalty-free music when they're making their own shows, and they're able to not steal or pirate music online, which a lot of people do, but we have a couple programs you can download music from. That's our editing softwares, that's our computer softwares, script writing softwares, and all that stuff. Meals, travel, we don't really do much of traveling or meals other than when we have to cart some stuff down to do the parade, which is, we have purchased gear last year that gives us the ability to put it in the back of a Honda Civic, so it's all getting smaller. So that's just a buffer on $100. Production and event expenses, about $500. That's, any cups for water, that's stuff that goes on to any event that we put on. And other operating expenses is just kind of a general stuff, $550. So that is what we have here for our proposed budget, and, yeah.
Question?
Yeah, I have a suggestion more than a question at this
Yeah.
point. It would be useful if you had last year's
Last year's to this year.
budget and expenses and actuals.
Yeah.
Yes. So 21's actual, 22 where you're at, and 23 your request. So
Cool,
we
yeah.
can kind of
Okay,
see
it
what's
just would be
a trend.
helpful.
Perfect. Next year, that, I will do that,
And
or for this
I
year as
was,
well.
I don't know what the improvements were, so you said
It
something,
was a handicapped ramp.
a handicap
Yeah,
ramp? Okay.
yes.
You said something else about that, that you had,
It was this, I think it was a CDFA
So-
loan, and it came through the city.
It was CDBG. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, yes,
Yep.
I'm sorry. It's Community Development Block Grant.
I sent this
essentially,
to
and
Jane Farini. That was the information I thought, I would assume that she would have sent to you guys for this.
Sorry,
but,
I got that under
That just, that was originally done by our treasurer, and I edited the numbers in there and sent them in, but that was done with Jane Farini and
okay.
myself and Joseph Tarr, our treasurer.
So just to recap, if the group were to
you need
honor
this
the
back?
request of 135, that would be taking 7532 from the trust and leaving a trust balance of 59601. If I have the math right.
You're pretty close.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
Yeah, so. I'm reading last year's notes. You had a budget of 159, so you did come down on the budget, and prices are out of control right now with utilities. I am fine with the request of 135. That's me. Ash, do you have any comment on the request for 135,000 from the trust?
No, so basically, I'll just add to basically what I've heard. So from last year to this year, changes and then projected for next year. This year is crazy, as you mentioned, everything is up. So on my end, what I'd like to see, and again, we can't predict things, right? How did we do compared to last year and projected? But in terms of the amount, I don't have an issue with it, no.
Yeah, I'm good with that, too.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to send $135,000 out of the city cable trust to the PPM TV.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Yep.
Aye. All right, good. All right, any other discussions?
no, I think we just need to try to set a time for the, so that we don't wait until crazy time when you're getting into budgeting and everything, maybe try to do it early in the fall rather than
Sure.
than
I'll work to
later.
make
Just
that
because I think that's what has happened. It just gets into, everybody gets really busy, and I can see you have a lot of trouble in the city getting even this many people together in one spot with everybody's other commitments.
So
So
we'll make sure that's an early fall meeting.
thank you all for being
Yeah,
here,
thank you.
and I'm glad we were able to arrive at a date, and I appreciate it being today. This was better for me, so.
Ash, thanks for joining remotely.
Yeah, anybody from the
Oh,
public?
thank you very much.
Anybody on the public out there?
There is no one on Zoom, and there's no one in the
Public
room.
here, so with that, I would take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Yep. Aye.
Thanks, Ash.
Thanks.